I think it's a real problem in a country with unemployment as high as ours to
Yeah.
even contemplate a minimum wage.
Yeah.
You can do that in countries where you're almost at full employment. And I talk about the middle class being hurt. Yes, minimum wage will help with those middle classes. But in a country like South Africa, where employment is a massive problem, or lack of employment, it makes no sense to me. And you're right, it does speak more to the populist vote. And I think it also encourages South Africans to look at investment opportunities other places, because the one thing that will happen if people cut back on jobs in this country, you can bet your bottom dollar that domestic spending will start to fall. And I think that's a big issue for this country, because while a lot of people want to buy South African shares because the share prices are quite attractive, I'm concerned about earnings growth in this country. I walk around shopping centres, I see so many shops today closed. I talk to business people who say they don't plan to put money into new businesses, because the one thing we can't do in South Africa is hire and fire at will.
Yeah.
Well, why is America such an incredible society? Because they can hire and fire. We still can't do that. We have far too many draconian rules trying to employ people. Forget about minimum wage. Make it easy to hire and fire people, and you'll be amazed how many more jobs you create.
Yeah. I mean, look, the reality is that we're in a situation where we need to make decisions, but it's a very difficult situation. And you talk about having offshore investments, but there is that decision of having offshore exposure or actually investing completely offshore, taking your money offshore. You know, what is a better thing? Because I mean, you look at what's happening overseas. I mean, you mention America, you mention Trump hanging over the heads of Americans. We see what's happening now in the EU. Who knows who's next? You know, that's another thing. You know, what do you recommend? I mean, what is the best option for someone?
Look, we never say to people, put all your money offshore, because the vast majority of people will continue to live in South Africa. So offshore is very much a long-term investment. You'd never put money offshore for a 3-month view, because that would just be crazy, because given how volatile the rand is, you might wipe out all your profits in a 3-month time frame. So offshore is very much a long-term view. We still say have local assets. But at the margin right now, we're advocating offshore, and you're right. We talk about problems in Europe, we talk about problems in the UK, problems in America, but there are also a lot of other emerging markets that are doing very nicely. We haven't even spoken about India this week. India's in a country where, and we're going to talk about leadership, I think, a lot more later, but this is a country that's working. Why is it working? Because Modi is the most incredible leader. He's getting things done. He's getting rid of corruption. India is moving along. So there are other emerging markets you can put your money into. And remember, it's not just about equities. Offshore, there are a number of asset classes you can invest in. So you can go into hedge funds, be it currency trading funds, being long-short equity funds, fixed income arbitrage. I mean, the list is endless. Property all around the world. As South Africans, we've got to recognize that JSE makes up 1% of world stock markets. And I'm sure most of you have heard that many, many times. But there are lots of other opportunities. Let's take America for a good example. You know, you can be worried about Trump, and it is worrying at the moment that he seems to be coming more neck and neck with Clinton. But you can buy Amazon. Amazon is going to keep growing, because if you look at the world at the moment, people aren't buying from traditional brick and mortar. They're buying online. Online sales are going crazy, and Amazon is the first in class in that world. So there are lots of examples of healthcare stocks in emerging markets. They don't have to be South African stocks. You can really create a whole new world for yourself in terms of investing by looking offshore. And we're saying the reason we're trying to emphasize today, have your money in dollars or hard currency. I used to say sterling, but that's harder to say this week. But if you want to have hard currency assets, the problem we've got is what happens if things get really tricky here? And this is not our view, by the way, but what if things get really tricky here and the government says, sorry, you can't take your money offshore anymore, because they're watching capital flight flow out the door and they stop it. It's all very well that you think you've bought your rand hedges or you've bought your foreign flexible feeder fund type idea and you've hedged it through the rand. You've got great rand returns. But when you want to educate your children in universities overseas, you can't pay for that in rands if you can't get your money out.
Yeah.
So I think this is something people have got to be genuinely concerned about.